Well, welcome to a busy Monday here at the Law and Crime Network. I'm Linda Kenny Bodden. You are my Law and Crime family. Let me just give you a brief update on another case besides Harvey Weinstein. The case of Jerry Burns. Remember that in Iowa? The cold case. He's being tried for genealogical hits on his DNA for the killing of Michelle Martinko in 1975. Well, let me tell you that case is still out. Closings took place, and sign up for @Law&Crime verdict, and we will let you know when the jury has reached a verdict. But now, let's go to what happened down here this morning in 100 Center Street, at 100 Center Street. Harvey Weinstein has been on trial for 5 counts dealing with the sexual abuse of women. They say that he started the hashtag #MeToo movement. Well, our own Jesse Weber was in the courthouse, and something happened this morning. What was that, Jesse?
Hey, Linda. Well, I don't think there's any shock here. Harvey Weinstein was found guilty of 2 of the 5 counts that he was facing: criminal sex act in the 1st degree and 3rd-degree rape. Pretty incredible outcome. I think the best word to describe it was surreal, watching Harvey Weinstein being convicted, but more importantly, him being remanded into custody. He was actually picked up by several court officers underneath his arms and escorted out of the courtroom. Took me a minute just to step back and think about the scene. This was Harvey Weinstein, one of the biggest people in entertainment, convicted on 2 major counts. And now he theoretically could spend the rest of his life behind bars. We got an update from the jury at 11:30 today, a note indicating that a verdict was reached. There were audible gasps in the courtroom. It was at this point that not only all of the attorneys who were outside rushed in, but numerous media reporters packed the courtroom. And also something that I hadn't seen since we continued our coverage on January 6th, just so many court officers in that room. I mean, it was packed. You couldn't move. And they were all surrounding Harvey Weinstein. Absolutely incredible scene.
So give us a snapshot of what it was like when the jury came back first and said not guilty to count 1. That's one of the predatory sexual assault counts. And then when they said guilty to count 2. Give us a snapshot. What did Harvey Weinstein look like? What did Donna Rotuno look like? What did the prosecutor look like? And how about the judge and jury?
Okay, so it should be noted that the foreman was the one who delivered the verdict. And when asked by the court, have you reached a verdict? Yes. And to begin, he actually paused before he delivered the first verdict. It kind of left us all waiting in suspense. But as you said, first count, predatory sexual assault, not guilty. Didn't hear anything in the courtroom. But as soon as he moved on to count 2, criminal sex act, guilty, I looked over at the defense team. They looked defeated. Harvey Weinstein, from what I could see, appeared kind of stunned, maybe a bit stoic. Now, my view was obstructed of the prosecution, couldn't see how they were feeling. But as we moved down the verdict sheet to hear that guilty charge on count 5, I think there was a level of surprise. That was, again, in relation to Jessica Mann, who says that Harvey Weinstein raped her in 2013. For anybody who's been following this case, we know there were a lot of issues or problems with her account. There was much speculation that the jury wouldn't find Harvey Weinstein guilty with respect to anything in relation to Jessica Mann. Clearly, that's not the case. They didn't find him guilty on rape 1, the higher charge, but rape 3 carries 4 years in prison.
So, Jesse, let me ask you this. On Friday, before we left for the weekend, the jury had said they were hung. That means they couldn't reach a verdict on counts 1 and 3, the predatory sexual assault counts dealing with Annabelle Shura. Today, they came back and said not guilty. Does that indicate to you that perhaps most of the people going in, or most of the jurors going into the weekend, were for not guilty on that count, and why?
Possibly. How many times have we seen before where juries instructed to go back, deliberate, they are still hung? Or they might come back and be guilty. Clearly, this long weekend gave some of those holdout jurors time to reflect. The reason I say that is because they came back with a guilty verdict within 2 hours of beginning their deliberations this morning. There was much speculation that they would continue on until the end of the day, maybe say to the judge, we're still deadlocked, what do we do? Not the case. It appears there were holdouts. I will mention that when the jury, each individual jury member was asked, is this your verdict? Is this your verdict? They all appeared confident and ready to confirm their verdicts. There didn't appear to be any wavering whatsoever. So whoever was the holdout, holdout, whatever issue it was resolved within those first 2 hours, and only they know what was said.
And Jesse, one of the things I know, I saw you this morning reporting on the fact that Harvey Weinstein was remanded, and he'll probably end up at Rikers Island, likely later today, or even he's there now. We don't know. But one of the things I asked you is that Donna Rotunno tried to get him to the judge, Judge Burke, to put him home on his bracelet, to remand him to his house arrest pending the sentencing. But later on, she said in a press interview that Harvey was also very strong. Did she address that? Did she address either the appeal or his health in the courtroom?
No. As soon as he was convicted, the prosecution made a motion. They made a plea to ultimately have Harvey Weinstein remanded into custody, citing what his convictions were. Donna Rotunno stood up and said, no, he should be confined to house arrest. He's on this ankle monitor. He is not a flight risk. He's attended court at every point. And then she cited these health issues. Now, we all knew about his back. She described that in detail. But what we also learned is that apparently he's taking injections into his eyes. Otherwise, he might be blind. And at this point, the judge said, look, I have no doubt about his medical issues, but he's remanded, and he will be sentenced on March 11th. She didn't make any mention in open court about an appeal of those bail conditions or even an appeal of the verdict. But at this point, he was remanded. There was some conversation between him and his attorneys before he was taken into custody. But again, she said he was strong, ready to go. He wasn't crying. He wasn't outrageous. Again, appeared shocked and a bit weak. He looked very weak when he was picked up by the court officers and taken out of that room.
So, Jesse, did you see any interaction between the defense team and Gloria Allred, who represented Mimi Haley, and several other of the people, of the women victims who were in court? I listened on Friday to a press conference Ms. Allred gave, in which she really threw some major shade on Donna Rotunno. But did you see any interaction today between them?
Oh, yes. Great question, Linda. I tell you what, I never really promote my Twitter, but I encourage everyone to go to my Twitter because I took this fantastic picture of Gloria Allred.
What's your Twitter first, Jesse?
Oh, at Jesse Cord Weber. So if you go there, you'll see a photo I took outside the courtroom where Gloria Allred is looking at the defense team. This is moments before they jockeyed for position outside. Who's going to take the mic? Who's going to hold the press conference? Both sides approached this microphone, and Arthur Aidala basically said to the press, you have an option here. Either you want to hear from us or you want to hear from Gloria Allred. I don't know what the conversation was at that point. She won, and the defense team moved away. She held a press conference for quite some time. Defense moved away. They didn't want to take any questions. They were stopped by reporters. Just shows you this level of animosity or tension between these sides, understandably so. Gloria Allred represents the women who have accused Harvey Weinstein of sexual assault, and they were charged with defending him. As you said on Friday, there was no love lost between Donna Rotunno and Gloria Allred as they had this exchange of words over Gloria Allred allegedly inappropriately talking about something personal in Donna Rotunno's personal life. And so, yeah, that was just a continuation of that.
So the defense said, Jesse, I understand that they are going to appeal. That's obviously no major surprise. Do they get a do-over, or will they be able to argue for a do-over given the fact that the count that everyone thought was very strong, the PSA relying on Annabelle Sciorra, seemed to be the most serious, but indeed the jury rejected that. But there were 3 other Molyneux witnesses, pattern witnesses, testified because of it. Did they get a do-over?
They're not going to get a do-over unless, of course, there's grounds to overturn the conviction. We've talked here on the network. What issues has the defense been bringing up? Most notably, juror number 11. That woman who is penning or has penned a novel about predatory sexual assault, yet she remained on the jury. The same woman who 2 weeks ago was reading and reviewing books on this very subject matter. It was brought into attention of the court, but yet she remained as part of this jury, as part of this 12. Clearly an issue that can be brought up on appeal. Numerous points from the judge that he should have recused himself. And throughout this trial, the judge understood the defense was making a record of numerous points that will ultimately be brought up in an appeal, whether it's a successful appeal, whether he gets a successful overturn of a conviction in a new trial is a separate question. At this point, they have a lot of ammunition going forward.
Thank you, Jesse. I mean, I feel like I've been in the courtroom this morning, both watching you, listening to you, and looking at our reports on Law and Crime. And we can get at your Twitter at Jesse Cord Weber and also at Law and Crime or Law Crime Network. So thanks very much. I will see you, I assume, in the studio here and also March 11th when Harvey Weinstein is going to be sentenced.
You got it, Linda. Thanks.
And you know what? We have to take one of those small breaks because I didn't want to interrupt Jesse because he was just giving us so much color about that courtroom. So you're going to have to stay with us, and we'll be back with a very special guest, Jose Baez.